How do you recommend a practitioner tell someone to use the EC3 mold plates? If they think they muscle test and found some mold, how should they tell them to test?
Best practice would be to just buy a 6-plate test kit. I think it's like $36. I mean, it's not that expensive. It comes with 6 plates, and we kind of recommend doing a air test and a tap test in the rooms where you spend the most time. So that would be opening one of the plates and setting it out on a table somewhere not way high up, but not too close to the floor.
Right.
I mean, maybe try to just get it in the middle of the room and set it out for an hour. And then you close it and let it culture for 5 days to see what grows. And in that same room, like say you have a large couch or a rug, especially if you have wall-to-wall carpet, do a tap test on that as well. Because those larger items, especially if they're upholstered, they tend to be like a filter for a lot of mold spores. And most of the water damage mold tends to fall to the floor or fall to a surface quite quickly. So if you do a tap test and an air test, you can get a pretty good idea of what's going on in those rooms. And you're looking for the plates not to culture more than about 4 colonies. I mean, it would be rare to have a completely like no growth at all, especially if you're living in the house and active and things like that. Just because you have a high count on a plate doesn't always mean that you have like an intense mold problem. It could mean that you just have contaminated carpet. So,
right.
The plates are a good place to start. They give you the idea that you need to do further investigation, or like hey, this room is okay, but then our bedroom is terrible. So like what's going on in the bedroom, so it can help you narrow your focus and even just start employing some mold specific cleaning to what you're doing and seeing if that makes a difference. They're just kind of cool because you can test frequently and monitor without spending a ton of money. So
yeah, we love that setup. And what I'll tell patients sometimes is like, get the kids involved, especially if you've got a homeschool group, your homeschool, make it a little science experiment of like what areas grow, what's going to grow in the plates. But we'll have patients buy 2 or 3 kits of it, right? Like 12, 18 plates. And then, tap test every room, air test every room, tape it to the vents, check your nose, check your clothes, right? And so just like you said, it'll help you narrow down, if your living room's got a couple of spores, not a big deal. But if your bedroom's got 20, well, then we're thinking like we might be getting close to our source, right? And then a fun way to do it too is, okay, if you've got I'm kind of strict, and I'll tell patients on an air test, I want 0 to 1 spores. Carpet tests and stuff, you're tracking it in whatever. So we just gotta clean on that front. But a 0 to 1 on an air test, and what I'll have patients do is say, hey, look, air test, okay, you got 6 spores, great. Fog that week, and then retest. And keep testing every week until they start to grow back. So if you get it down to 0 spores after fogging with the EC3 fogger and mold concentrate or enzyme solution, and then come next, okay, now we got 0 to 1 spore, great. And then the next week, 0 to 1, great. Week 3, we're back up to 4 spores. Okay, I know I need to fog every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. And so we can create a great routine like that. But the biggest thing I think for practitioners, though, doctors, functional health coaches, et cetera, is now you're giving people some sense of proactive, I don't want to call it control, but something proactive they can do to monitor their environment and make sure they're doing great things. I've got some people who say, look, we've done all the stuff that we need to, but, we can't move out and the house isn't perfect. We figure out if they fog twice a week, they can tolerate it and live well in there. It's not, it doesn't take the place of good remediation by any means. But sometimes if you're in a difficult situation, doing something like that can give you that margin of air, that breathing room, literally, the breathing room to stay healthy or start to recover. And so you can see that where, okay, how often do I need to fog to keep this space livable for me? Is it once a week? Is it once a month? Is it 3 times a week? But you can do that. And the fogging unit and the cleaning materials, it's so easy on the lungs. It's not a big deal. And the fogger is not hard to use, right? No. So it's not a huge deal to run that through and fog. Or what I'll tell patients is like, look, pick 3 rooms each weekend, do those 3. The next weekend, do a different set of rooms. The next weekend, do your living room, right? Depending on how big your house is. and
Yeah.
just keep rotating, something like that to give them an edge. And so I love the idea that you guys can give practitioners and then their clients and patients so many tools beyond just a good binder or a good nose spray, which you guys do offer, of course, which your patients love, but something for them to do in the environment, which so many practitioners just sadly know nothing about. So
Yeah.
between what you guys offer on your websites, educational wise, but then also the solutions you can offer them, that now you can really empower those people.
Yeah, and it's also important that people just understand, it's not a biocide. It's not something that's going to cause further issues, especially for someone who is mold harmed and just like sensitive to everything and their body can't tolerate just another burden. So it's helpful in that way. And it's just, I mean, especially if you're like a sensitive person, it just kind of becomes like part of your cleaning routine.